Welcome to the bold analysis. I have always said in this podcast that it will go into the history of Kenya that the fourth president of Republic of Kenya was Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, as to whether you like it or not. On Tuesday, The Star ran a newspaper headline documenting how Uhuru Kenyatta's office is consuming 441 million taxpayers' money. And when that story was published, that headline story was published, I quickly saw a strategy that was being hatched to remind taxpayers that don't complain about finance bill, because even your leaders are being paid from that money. But then Kinudi Mbugua, the chief of staff in the office of former president, is actually spilling the beans on the truth about this. And do you know, for the last 2 financial years, 2022-2023, then 2023-2024, the office of the former president, of retired president, has received around 28.5 million only out of the over 1 billion allocated for that office in the last 2 financial years. This is a bit mind-blowing, and probably we are not shocked with it. And I remember when Uhuru Kenyatta spoke sometime in Nairobi and said that in politics there is a lot of betrayals.
Leo imefika ni wakati ya Father Kamomoe na Father Wainaina kuacha jina Father Nganga kule nejolile kuacha jina father na sasa kuitwa bishop. Todo muthenyo niguo mabagirwo ni Ngai na niguo wao, na nikio hindi ciothe tugaga Ngai ni mwega. Yangu tu ni kusema ya kwamba wameingia hii kazi leo kusaidiana na wenzao, haswa Archbishop Anyolo, kueneza injili katika diocese yetu ya Nairobi. Na hiyo sio kazi ambayo tutasema ni rahisi, kwa sababu dunia ambayo tunaishi yaendelea kuwa ngumu. Na ikiwa ngumu, saa ingine watu hupotea. Na wakipotea wanatafuta mchungaji. Na mchungaji ni yule ambaye atasikiliza wale ambao wanaongoza, na badala ya kuwaeleza ni kushauriana pamoja na wao apate suluhu ya kuwasaidia katika shida zao. We have for too long sometimes taken leadership to mean your capacity to lord it over everybody else. But as the nuncio has reminded us today, the job of a shepherd is not to direct, but to guide and lead and bring everybody along with you. Tumesikia juu ya wasaliti. Nuncio ametuambia hapa mambo ya wasaliti. Na ajichunge wasaliti wa kanisa. Mabishop mujichunge. Lakini mimi nataka niseme hii, nikiangalia to my left, to my right. Sioni shida ya usaliti mwingi sana huku. Hawa ni watu ukiwaongelesha vizuri, mtapelekana na hawa vizuri sana na watawasaidia kwa kazi zenu. Usaliti huko upande mwingine sitaki sijui. Usaliti ni mwingi sana. Lakini kwa wasaliti tunawaambia, hata Judas alisaliti Yesu, lakini hiyo mahela aliiwacha akaenda akatafuta kamba. Kwa hivyo because ya mwishine dale.
Uhuru meant a lot, and maybe the country did not just interpret. I want to give you a blow-by-blow account on what have happened, and you can also make your own judgment on what exactly do you think is bringing this. After the inauguration of William Ruto on 13th September 2013, 2 days before that ceremony, Uhuru Kenyatta had vacated the State House, and he went to his residence along Dennis Pritt Road. That structure is called Caledonia House, next to Dennis Pritt Road, that had been renovated 10 days to the general election. And he went with some 4 cars that had been using when he was the president. Do you know that the State House team sent elite presidential escort team, and they went there to scoop those cars that Uhuru had taken, had gone home with, and harassed cleaners and gardeners and other administrators in the manner that do not befit the stature of a former president. And that is just one of the stories that have been said, but maybe we can say that is how security officers act, so we may not even complain about that. Now, in the last 20 months, despite of Parliament passing allocations that are supposed to go to the office of the former president, that office is never funded, and Uhuru Kenyatta pays his aides security details and administrators from his pocket. This should not be it. Uhuru is supposed to travels with 14 officers. This includes security, a medic, a press team, and accountant. And so some of his missions outside have been limited to the funding, because whenever, and the chief of staff Kennedy Mbugua is saying, whenever they raise this with the military, with the control of budget, who is the one that is supposed to cater for this, then they're ignored. I wish it is under State Department. The Parliament should actually summon the controller of the status controller of budget to explain to the country why they've not been giving, they have deprived Uhuru Kenyatta of this funding. And they're giving 2 examples. Uhuru Kenyatta was invited last year to be a guest speaker in Nigeria during the swearing-in ceremony of Mr. Bola Tinubu, who is the new president of Nigeria. But upon the request, he was supposed to be a chief guest, and also was supposed to give some lecture, public lecture on governance there. That budget was declined. The State House never okayed Uhuru budget, and he had to use his own means. And you could see Uhuru then dispatched Mudavadi to represent him in Nigeria. Now look at this photo. So finally we've been told what happened. You see, this is the photo of Uhuru Kenyatta disembarking from Ugandan airplane in DRC Congo when he attended the inauguration ceremony of the President Tshisekedi. So apparently, according to the Kinudi Mbugwa, the Uhuru had received the invitation. He was supposed to be there and could not get facilitation from the Kenyan government. So what happened? That Museveni was sending the deputy to DRC, that is the VP Jessica Alupo. So this same plane left Uganda carrying the vice president, then came in Kenya, picked Uhuru Kenyatta, then they went straight to Congo. So it had to take Museveni for Uhuru Kenyatta to fly to Congo. And that is why Uhuru Kenyatta was disembarking from that Ugandan airline. According to the report, they were in the same plane with the vice president of Uganda. May God thank Museveni. May just God bless Museveni. Sometimes, I've always said, injustice is injustice. Whoever is being meted on, it's unfair. And you know, there is this photo that imagine how Uhuru Kenyatta was embraced by Museveni's wife, Janet Museveni. You know, you see the way that, and by that time you could feel that Uhuru was very comfortable akiwa Uganda. He was easy when he was in Uganda. So it had to take that for Uhuru Kenyatta to fly to DR Congo. And let me tell you, what had strained the relationship between Kenya and Uganda was the mere fact that Museveni's son and Museveni himself were close to former President Uhuru Kenyatta. So behind the scene, what unlocked these deals? What was closing all these deals? Even the issue of closing, banning some imports from Uganda from coming to Kenya, all those restrictions were being erected because of Ugandan deal relationship with the former President Uhuru Kenyatta. And when Museveni was here just a few days ago, Museveni did not meet Uhuru Kenyatta. Or even if they met, but they did not meet because that photo would have circulated. Museveni never had one-on-one with Uhuru Kenyatta, despite the fact that they have close buddies. And Ruto always demanded them to break ties for even Kenya to have a good relationship with Uganda. Now, and I think that was bad. If you deny because of that, I think it's not in order. Let's look at the other issue. Uhuru Kenyatta is entitled to a state residence, not more than 1,000 acres, sitting in not more than 1,000 acres. And State House has demanded that Uhuru to vacate that Dennis Pratt residence called it's called Caledonia, to vacate that premise and move to a premise that was constructed for former President Mwai Kibaki in Nyeri Estate. And Uhuru has said no. And this is the argument. The same retirement benefits that Uhuru Kenyatta is enjoying is the same benefits are parallel to Mudi Awori. The three that are in that stature are Mudi Awori, Raila Odinga, and Kalonzo Musyoka. So, under that obligation, someone can choose where to stay. It's not the state to choose for you, you have to stay there. You stay here. So when Raila was a prime minister, Raila was using Capitol Hill office. Even after he left, he still uses Capitol Hill, which is still paid by government. And the government have never asked him to vacate Capitol Hill. It is still by government. Kalonzo Musyoka uses Kalonzo Command Center. That structure is paid by government. And he was using it even by the time he was a deputy president. So Kenneth Wambugu, or rather Uhuru Kenyatta, is arguing. So what is the difference with my case? That in his case, the state is telling him, you can't choose where to stay. We have to choose for you where to stay. While himself is saying he has to stay along the Dennis Bridge Road. In 2023-2024 financial year, or rather in 2022-2023, that office was allocated 655 million. But they only received, that is the other financial year, see, they only received 28.5 million for Ethiopia and Burundi head of state and government summit. They didn't receive the whole allocation. In 2023-2024, this financial year, the appropriated budget for that office is 503 million. They reduced it to 443 million, but have not paid even a shilling. Not even a shilling has been disbursed. The officials, the Kanzedena, even the chief of staff, the Uhuru Kenyatta secretariat that work with him, their contracts expired in 2022 by then, and it has not been renewed to date. So they work on stipend from the former president. And I'm looking at it this way. The problem with this country here is Uhuru Kenyatta's retirement benefits is taxpayers' money. It's amongst where taxpayers' money go. So you want to tell this country that you want to spend 1 billion annually to renovate state lodges and state houses, while Uhuru Kenyatta's 500 million in one financial year cannot be granted. And it could be shallow and petty to say William Ruto is right to deny Uhuru Kenyatta because Uhuru Kenyatta had a forced relationship with him. But do you know this money will be paid at whatever time it will have to be paid? So I think Ruto is even wasting time by failing to pay it. It's just filing that local debts because even if it will take 5 or 10 years, this is in constitution. So if you want to deny Uhuru Kenyatta this right, then you need just to go to edit the constitution. Just go and work on the constitution. But this is a constitutional right, and it can be challenged in court, and it will have to be paid. So even if it will be paid in lump sum, it will be paid. I'm even wondering why you're even dealing around this. But the first, it must start with Parliament should summon the controller of budget so that the country can be given answers as to why Uhuru Kenyatta is not being sorted. I'm seeing interpreting this funds denial in some forefronts. I'm wondering, Rigathi has been denied chopper. Uhuru is not being given funding. Don't you think what will stop them from being partners that are being mistreated by President Ruto? Sometimes, for me, by all fairness, I see William Ruto as a man who had all empathy for the people, trying to show that he cares. But such stories gives us a different picture about the president. This gives us a different picture. Number one, Uhuru endorsement as the Kikuyu kingpin in Limuru 3 had a bigger bearing. And these people that have been saying Uhuru needs to leave the space are dishonest, because Uhuru then must remain in politics to be safe. He must get the backing of Mount Kenya and the backing of the nation for him to be safe. What is stopping, what is giving state limits of doing more to Uhuru Kenyatta is the fact that he has a backing in this country. So even for him to say, I will still, for the leaders to stay, he's still our kingpin, it had a bigger bearing. Number two, the other thing is, when Rigathi mentioned he wants a handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta, that really angered William Ruto. Because it's true, William Ruto sees Uhuru as his enemy. And then the Uhuru revenge scheme will cost William Ruto Mount Kenya votes dearly. Because how about if Kenyatta family decides to use everything, their financial muscle, to stage a coup against William Ruto in Mount Kenya? It will take to great length. And with this, there is really keen aspect. I believe Uhuru Kenyatta retirement package is not money from someone's pocket. This is taxpayers' money. He's the only third president we're having. The other two have died. And that is the only, if there is money we spend, that is on one person only. Imagine if we could be having 3 retired presidents. And remember, power transient. Tomorrow, even William Ruto will not be in power. So, we should just do the right thing.